Chan from Blues Traveler today. It's a real pleasure for us to have him along. We've got some questions. It'll be more of a chat than an interview, really. We'll be talking to him about his life in Blues Traveler and also about his new project, which is War Horse, which I've been listening to for the last few days, which is great. So just welcome Tony and Chan to the chat.
Thanks for having me, Rich and Tony. Great to see you guys.
Great to see you, Chan. It's always a pleasure. Big fans over here, and we have some interesting questions for you today.
Hit me.
Okay, so going to go back. So like I said, I've been listening to your stuff, and there's some great music there. I've really enjoyed it. I don't say that to everybody, but I've really enjoyed listening to it. So I'm going to go back to the beginning because I'm a musician as well, so I'm genuinely interested in this stuff. Cool. So how old were you when you first started playing music, and which instrument was it?
Well, I've always, my parents had a dope record collection. Like, they were old hippies. So they had all like, Woodstock era, Jimi Hendrix albums, Led Zeppelin albums. My dad also was a huge jazz fan. So he had all the bebop, Charlie Parker, John Coltrane albums. So there was always cool music. Neither of them were musicians, but there was a lot of cool music around, and I always was quite moved by it. I didn't start playing until my childhood friend who lived across the street, and from the age of 3 or 4, we'd, play after school or what have you in the neighborhood. And one day when I was around 10 years old, I went over to his house after school, as we did, and he had a guitar. And I was like, wow. And I picked it up, just started strumming it, and immediately I was like, I like this. So, which is one of those odd things. But then for the next 2 weeks, I just would go over to his house, not to play with him, but to play his guitar. So after 2 weeks, God love him, he just gave me the guitar. And that was
no way.
A good man. Thanks, John. I still talk to John regularly. He's a good dude.
Brilliant. So why you started playing was just music was all around you, and then your friend had a guitar. Was it something had you thought about playing before? Had you kind of seen people on telly or whatever and thought, I want to do that?
Not particularly. I just vividly remember the instrument, like putting it in my lap, the strings vibrating, and it was, it's one of those callings. And I never put it down. From the moment I got it, I just wanted to practice it all the time. It kind of stroked some, up until that point, I'd done a lot of like drawing and like painting, and I played Dungeons and Dragons, and I loved creating worlds and modules. So I was into a lot of nerdy stuff where I could kind of like creative stuff where I could like just dive in. And I guess I was just practicing, because once I started playing guitar, all that other stuff kind of disappeared. But I'd always loved escaping into reading or whatever the case may be. And guitar was just a really cool way to, and music was just, once I had access to the music, I was in it. Now, it's very important to realize I wasn't naturally very good at all. And it still probably aren't. But my one superpower when it comes to music is enthusiasm. So I lean on that a lot.
It's funny that all the best musicians I know, it's so weird you'd say that, all the best musicians I know, some of these are world-class players. And when I say to them, you're an amazing drummer, you're an amazing guitarist, 2 people I know, and they both said to me, no, I'm not really that great. I've got one trick, I do it well, and I practice a lot. And you think, hang on. But these are but when you meet those people who go, I'm brilliant, I'm great, I don't have to do this, you think they're never the right thing, are they?
No, I mean, all, touring around the world 30 plus years now. I've met a lot of musicians, and every one of us at some point because you can't really get great at an instrument unless you kind of pick it up young and never put it down. Obviously, you can get decent at it and enjoy it and, even be in a band with it. But to be a real player, it's kind of something you need to kind of get possessed with. And we all just at one point got into our instruments and just sat alone in our rooms running scales for hours till I used to sleep with the thing. So, it was just I would just run home just to be able to play it, you know, and I did love music, so I had all these, you know, and at the time I was really into like punk rock and English new wave and you know the Police, the Jam, the Clash, a lot of ska. I was really into all that music. So, and luckily that music's pretty simple,
Mhm.
you know, so it was good. I could learn all those different songs and and so you know I was running getting records, bringing them home, trying to figure them out. You know, back then we had to figure it all out by ear, just moving the needle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it, you know it was great. It was just a great obsessive thing, but probably productive and healthy obsessive thing to spend my time on, other
No,
than
that's right.
vandalism and shoplifting.
Yeah, yeah. I've got some questions about your first influences. So you've touched on that. I think Tony wants to talk to you about some stuff relating to this as well. Tony, you might want to jump in here for a second.
Hey, Chan. I know that you're interested in punk, like post-punk, maybe early punk. What was the scene like in New York when you were growing up in the early '80s?
Well, so I was in New Jersey, Princeton, New Jersey, which is just an hour outside of New York. And you know, I was young during the initial wave of punk, which you know, 81, 80, obviously, or mid 70s was CBGBs, but punk was not widely known at that point. But I was 81, 82, 83 in New Jersey. The great thing is because we were close to New York, but also Princeton is a big college town. There's a big university there. So they had a really great independent record store called the Princeton Record Exchange. And so they had all the imports. So I would run up there and get, you know, a new Squeeze, singles 45s and under, you know, the Specials album, the Jam. You know, you couldn't get that stuff at mainstream record stores. So I got all those cool records up there. So I just had access to music because, you know, back then in the early mid 80s, the mainstream record stores, you couldn't find a lot of that stuff. It's not like now you just go online and find your little niche weird stuff that you're into. So I was lucky enough to be close to a big city where we get to get those influences and also have a great record store. And that's where I got that music. I was too young to go to the shows.
Okay, and also, what are some of the guitar players that you look up to, or were trying to get some musical sense back in the early '80s? I don't know, like Andy Summers, the Police, or do you have any guitar players that you like to?
I think my first like obsessive band was the Police, and I would just sit there and listen to their albums over and over again. And it was definitely Andy Summers, and that amazing atmospheric kind of chordal stuff he used to fill up that power trio was just amazing. You know, I don't know how a three-piece like that could sound so huge.
Right.
I was joking with my friend, the best three pieces of all time, but it would be the Police, the Jam, Rush, and ZZ Top. When we're trying to think of any other good three pieces, but those are four good ones.
Right.
Anyway, and then after that, you know, I was into the Clash, but that's pretty simple bar chord stuff, not really guitar hero stuff. And same with all that ska stuff. But I I kind of drifted from that as I got a little better guitar into Bowie, who kind of looked punk rock and, you know, was kind of there around the edges of it, obviously, as he always is in every musical evolution. And so then I got into Bowie and classic rock, and Mark Ronson for sure was a huge kind of influence, like with the lead guitar and the things like that. So Bowie was kind of my transition into better guitar playing, or more, I should say more, you know, advanced guitar playing.
Do you want to hear a quick, really funny story about ZZ Top? You
Sure.
know, I lived in Houston, Texas, and Billy Gibbons was a neighbor. He lived nearby. They had big houses. They had their own tour. In that house, they parked their tour bus in that ranch built type of house. And we used the same bank, Bank One back then. Now it's Chase, and in that building in Houston on Westheimer, there one of the biggest radio stations was 104 KRBE, still is, and they're at the very top of that same building. I was at the bank in line, and Billy Gibbons walked in with a big scarf. You could only see his sunglasses, leather jacket, that little beanie thing that he wears, and people thought it was a robbery, right? I mean, everybody got on the ground, and he's like, "Is this the entrance to the radio station?" And we were all laughing, and I got an autograph and a picture, and it was
Nice.
I mean, crazy, but it happened. And so I just want to let you just a little quick.
Yeah, I mean, back then, everyone didn't know what everyone looked like. It was a little different. We just didn't have access to all the visuals and the images we do now, so everything was a little more mysterious.
Oh yeah, but incredible band, ZZ Top, incredible. That's a 3-piece with a very.
I'm open to from you two. What's a fifth 3-piece that's the greatest 3-piece all time? Because those four kind of sum it up. There's another.
I'd say Motorhead.
Oh, that's a great one. I can't take anything away from Lemmy and the Crew.
Yeah,
Mr. Killmeister.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that band, and I think if you think of like the peak of heavy metal, I think it's Motorhead. I think they did it back then. They got everything right, didn't they? No second guitar. That's just great.
I would posit that Motorhead was kind of a forerunner of the punk rock thing. It was kind of taking the metal that was kind of getting a little bit overbearing and just stripped it down to its essence. Along with Iggy Pop, with the Stooges, but I don't think Motorhead gets enough credit for kind of stripping down rock and roll towards more what punk was eventually.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And funny enough, with Motorhead, I think like the Police in a way. They haven't dated. You listen to them now, they still sound really exciting and urgent, don't they? Those first albums.
Oh, so it's just so great. The attitude, and that's punk rock too. They definitely had a punk rock attitude.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rich. I mean, if I think we can move forward with.
Yeah, I was going to say when you guys, Tony and Chan, when you were talking about the Police as well, I was thinking one of the things that gets me now is the way, because everything's kind of click track now and has been for ages, is the amount of drummers who criticize Stuart Copeland's playing because they say, he's always ahead of the beat, he's always pushing it. But he was a massive part of their sound as well, wasn't he? I mean, I think, how many other drummers can you think of where, I mean, I know I can sing the drum parts to Roxanne. How many other bands can you think of like that?
He does a great thing on IG where I follow him on IG, where he plays the his drum tracks from those great songs, and they're all like, you're waiting for this next part and waiting for this next little fill. I mean, Keith Moon was the kind of a similar way. He had those parts were big hooky parts of the song. Keith Richards always said part of what made the Stones sound was that Charlie Watts was always a little ahead of the beat, and he would always come in a little behind the beat, and that give and take was kind of what made it cool, and gave it that kind of swagger. Yeah. And you can't argue with the Police's singular, and to this day singular sound. It's almost impossible to recreate it, because it is so musical. It's not for bands covering the Police. It doesn't quite work.
No, totally. I'm like you. I follow Stuart Copeland on Instagram for exactly the same reason. And so the amount of times where I'm kind of sat on the sofa just with my headphones on, I'll just be smiling, and my wife's like, "Are you watching the Police again?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am."
Yeah. He's an entertaining bloke as well. I like him a lot.
He is. That's great. So another thing, I was watching. I did a bit of research. Apart from listening to your music, I watched some of the kind of interviews you've done about Blues Traveler as well, and I found that was like a really romantic story. It's that thing about the young friends getting a band and pushing it to that level of stardom and success. Is a real romantic thing. I mean, I've interviewed other people, and one of the big things I think with with singer-songwriters or founder band members is that they saw people on music shows when they were kids. They'd see like Mark Bolan and Bowie, and they'd think, I want to do that. And they don't think about the practicalities in the work. They just think, I want to be that. And I found your story quite romantic in the same way, the band. So I wanted to ask you, what drove you, because you worked so hard, what drove you to make Blues Traveler so successful?
Well, so our high school had a great music department, and I was pretty self-taught. I mean, I had some guitar lessons from a great guy who showed me all the scales and any song I wanted to figure out, and a little light theory. But I would always skip class and just our music department had an amp room and little soundproof studio rooms. So I just get baked and skip class and go in there, take an amp and so Brendan and John it had a big band, like a national award-winning big band. And John and Brendan, who are the bass player and the harmonica and singer, the drummer and the harmonica and singer for Blues Traveler, were in that band, and they would always see me in there. We all just, so that's kind of where we met, and we all just loved music, and right away started writing our own songs and playing in Brendan's basement, just improvising. And, John's a pretty singular talent, so we knew we had, someone pretty special that could be the focal point, which every band needs. But we also had great chemistry, and we kind of wrote cool songs. We all did the writing, and so that chemistry was there. And then I brought my friend, who was more kind of from the Deadhead world, the Grateful Dead world, in. I was kind of in between. They were kind of squares, those two. John's more of a Jimi Hendrix guy. Anyway, and it never crossed our mind not to like be a huge successful band. It's the joys of being 16, 17. So we just thought we were so badass, even though we were just playing like little backyard parties that the cops would shut down, backyard keg parties. John went to New York a year before us. He was a year ahead of us in school, and that whole senior year we'd go up and do talent nights. But I mean, it really comes down to it never crossed our mind we couldn't do it, and I think that naivety of youth is pretty pivotal to kind of pulling something like that off.
Mm-hmm.
But we never so that being said, though, we never stopped pushing it. We would rehearse, we'd write songs, we'd try and get gigs. Our first year in New York was kind of an epic disaster. We got like addicted to crack and got kicked out of our apartments and didn't have any gigs. It was not an auspicious beginning, and we lived in the worst neighborhood in Brooklyn. Nobody cared about us, but somehow that kind of bonded us more together. And towards the end of it, we had manufactured a few little Lower East Side spots that a few people come see us play. And pretty soon, God bless New York, they had this thing called the cabaret law, which up until 1986, when we kind of moved into New York, you needed this special license to have more than 3 people on stage. Well, they just rescinded that when we moved to New York. And so every little dive on the Lower East Side was having bands. So we could literally and did play 7 nights a week in all these little shitholes. And some of them we kind of made more of our regular. We'd play Monday night from 10 p.m. till 4 a.m. till they shut us down. And I mean, we never even at that point we barely rehearsed because we just played every night. And like writing a song would be like, all right, this chord, and then we just hash it out on stage. And slowly but surely, the crowds started coming. I mean, that's a whole long story how that happened. But when you're playing, 20, 25 nights a month, word gets out, I guess. And like I said, we were balls to the wall. We didn't, we were definitely had a lot of energy, and John was pretty special, and we had a unique voice. So I think, people dug that, and people were just looking for cool stuff to do. I mean, it was kind of a good time to be in New York.
So that's interesting. So it took you did it feel like a solid trajectory? Did it feel like things were always getting better and bigger, or did it feel like a
Once
long
after
haul?
that first year, it certainly did. After that first year, it was nonstop. I mean, we played 200, 250 dates a year just for like the next 7 years and till four hit. But and that whole time it was just getting bigger and we that's a long story. But that first year, like I said, was a train wreck. And I think maybe, we were 18 at the time, 18, 17, 18, and 19. So
Wow.
we weren't really, and we were all on our own in New York. I mean, our parents helped out where they could. They were just trying their level best to be supportive, but completely panic stricken, I'm sure. I don't blame them considering the debauchery that was going on. But, and then, there were a lot of great club owners too that kind of, I mean, like I said, we were just kids that took us under their wing and bartenders and all these people that kind of helped out and other bands. There was a really nice scene already in place that we kind of latched onto. And those guys kind of would let us open up for them and we'd go to all their gigs and see how they worked bars. So, there was a great New York vibe in place that we just soaked up. But like I said, we were out there every night trying something or at least hanging out. And most importantly, it never crossed our mind it wouldn't work.
So I mean, a lot of that sounds kind of organic. It sounds like, you were friends together. Then the crowds probably felt like part of your social life and your world as well. But I guess there came a point as you started getting hits and stuff where you became famous as well, which is less what musicians think about. I think it's almost a byproduct of being great and persisting. So
we all want to make some money.
Sure. So was there a point where you felt that happening? Did you feel the band and yourself becoming famous?
Well, I mean, it happens in levels. Like for a couple of years there, from like 88 to 90, we were the kings of New York. We packed every place we played there. We were New York's little secret. We had this great little cadre of 100 or so people that would come to our shows. And there was a couple other bands like the Spin Doctors that were came along a little after us, but they were kind of part of that scene. And then we got signed and then we start touring the country. So we start leaving New York really. And all of a sudden that whole scene we were the center of, people move on with their lives as well. These are young people, they got to get jobs and careers and find their muse. So that whole thing slowly starts to dissipate. So that's the first time it happens. And then we start going around the country and we slowly but surely build up this great live fan base around the country over time. And then four happens, 95, 96, and we got all these top 40 hits. So then all these new people come in that are like more casual fans. But it's all good. But then our kind of organic fans we got from just touring the country in vans relentlessly, they're getting kind of put out. So it's kind of your fan base is kind of, especially in that period, there's a lot going on. So we didn't really worry too much about it. We just kind of made our best. I mean, it was pretty chaotic. We were working so much and partying a lot and, all the things young knuckleheads do. And so we were just making the best calls we could as they came up. But, basically there's 23-year-olds in charge of this whole thing. And we made a lot of bad decisions.
So did you feel that you had to, when that changed, like you say, it became less organic, did you feel that you had to adopt a different personality at all? Were you able to stay who you'd always been, or did you think you had to change?
Well, I mean, I think part of the reason we've been around so long is we are always open to trying new influences, new things. And I think when we got radio, like initially we were kind of wanted to be more like the Grateful Dead, like this just kind of outside the box touring entity. And we were surprised as anyone. We got top 40, top 10 mainstream hits. Was as surprising as anything. So, but we just embraced that. I mean, it was pretty cool. It was a lot of cool events, and MTV Movie Awards and Saturday Night Live, and a lot of interesting opportunities. So I mean, at that point, you're going to kind of try on the mainstream rock star outfit for a little while. And
did you do that?
it probably turned off some of our fans, but we, like I said, we're in our mid-20s. I don't even think we really knew who we were.
So did you do that? Did you try on the mainstream rock star?
Sure. I mean, you try and snazz up your dress code a little bit, we did as much as we could because we are, for all intents and purposes, a pretty like scruffy hippie jam band, but with just somehow got some mainstream appeal. So I don't think we were the worst at it. But at our heart, what we first loved to do and what we still love to do, and I think what's kept us sane and kept us moving, is we love to play live, improvise, have work with the crowd. That's really, and to this day, our number one thing. And the albums and all the rest of it kind of rotate around that. But the live thing and the focusing on that, I think, kept us really pretty true to what we were supposed to be. And I think we always kind of leaned on that in the end. So I don't think we went too far afield.
Yeah, that comes across. I could see that. I've got a few more questions. I'm just going to check in on Tony, see if he's got something else he might have wanted to bring in. Tony?
Yes, Chan. How does it feel to be the longest running band playing the 4th of July Independence Day shows at Red Rocks, legendary venue?
Those are the kind of things that just blow your mind. I mean, Red Rocks is such a historical venue. And there's so many amazing. I mean, it's a reason why it's probably the most live concert videos ever come from live so-and-so live at Red Rocks. We have one.
Right.
So it's and then the kind of know we've survived through all this different history of bands, and different bands are up and down, and we've managed to pack that place for 30 years now. I don't even know how many years. More than 30 years. I think we started 91.
It was only 1 year, I believe it was 99. There was only 1 year where they didn't do it. So
199, and then COVID year. Then 2020.
COVID. Yeah.
But we started there. Initially we opened up for the Allman Brothers there on the 4th of July. Our manager for a while before he passed away was Bill Graham, the famous music impresario Bill Graham, which was an education unto itself, just an amazing opportunity. And he helped us a lot. And one of the things he did was he got us on tour 2 summers with the Allman Brothers. And so we played Red Rocks opening up for them, and then they didn't want to do it the next year. And we nabbed the date, probably 92, and we've never looked back. So thank you, Allman Brothers. Thank you, Bill Graham.
Wow.
Right. And another question, just your big break on national television, Dave Letterman. Can you tell us a little bit how that felt?
It was pretty exciting. So like I said, we were kind of like the hot band around town in all these little bars. And we were playing this place. We played this place a lot that held maybe 150 people, Mondo Cane. We used to pack it. We used to play it every like Tuesday for months, for a year. And the bartender there was moonlighting as a bartender, but his main gig was he wanted to be a producer in television or something along those lines. So he got a producer job at Letterman and got us that gig. So no one, at that point, almost no one had heard of us. Maybe college, we were kind of had some, but anyway, was the song we played there, had a little traction at college radio, I guess. And college, by the way, back then, that's how underground bands got the word out, was college radio and college kids trading tapes and all of that. But so in any case, he got us the Letterman gig. And I'll be honest, once again, we were so myopic and like just balls to the wall going for it. I just remember, just like everything back then, we just figured it was meant to be. I don't remember getting too nervous about it, but I do remember it was super cool.
That's a good. I love listening. I love listening to that. That's a great response. Tony, I've got a few more questions for Chan. Am I good to throw them in?
Go right ahead, brother.
Yeah, okay. So Chan, there's a couple of things I really like asking people. I'll ask them one at a time, but I want to ask you what you think your biggest mistake has been, and then I want to ask you what I think your best decision has been. So first of all, Chan, what do you think your biggest mistake has been?
Man, I threw away a lot of money over the years. Jesus. If I knew, because once again, I spoke about we were in our mid-20s. We're in our mid-20s, just touring all the time, partying all the time, and all of a sudden, that was our heyday. We're making tons of money. And over the years, I've gotten more responsible money. If I could have gone back to that kid and just kind of focused that cash in better directions. So like most bands, financial decisions are our biggest mistake. Most young bands, because again, we're just kids, and you give us all this control of all this stuff. And there's a lot of predators out there who, whether it's managers, accountants, who just kind of take advantage of that and aren't really looking out for your best. They're not necessarily robbing you, but they're not looking out for you, and they'll let you go as far afield as you want as long as they're getting their cut. And that happened a lot.
And what do you think? What do you think has been your best decision over life?
Well, of course, other than my kids, which I do hold dear, I have two sons, 20 and 26. Probably in the recent years is to quit drinking. It had gotten kind of a tough slog. So in the last 5 years, I've been sober, and no one needs to see an old rock star hammered. So, or be D-list rock star anyway. So honestly, from my perspective now that I'm in my 50s and really enjoying life and very creative, and that was a great decision. And I'm very grateful that I had the help and managed to take the help to get my act clean.
Yeah, I've heard, yeah, but that sits well on you. I've heard several musicians I know have said the same thing. Tony, you wanted to jump in, I think, just for a second.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say that Chan has been so good to me. He helps a lot of people, and I wanted to put that out there. He besides being sober now for 5 years, he has groups and AA groups, and I joined one of those, and he's always checking on me, and I forever will be grateful to Chan for helping me, because now living a sober life is so important, and a lot of people don't know this, and Chan will never say it because that's the person that he is. His heart is this big, it's huge. One of those. He gives so much. So thank you, Chan, for
Thanks,
all
Tony.
the help.
Well, like I always say, we're too old for this shit. We gotta figure it out.
Yeah, that also.
Leave the partying to the 20-year-olds. It's their time. We
Yeah.
don't need to drink all the stuff. Come on.
Yeah, crazy times, but uh, you know, it's a second phase of this life, and I feel great, and and you look great, and I mean, amazing, and thank you for all the other people. You help so many people, man, and
Oh,
thank you.
takes a village to
Yeah.
keep me sober, that's for sure.
Yeah. So you had the exposure on Letterman, and how did it feel to to actually get paid, and renegotiate your contract the day that you guys were awarded the Grammys for Best Rock Album of the Year?
That was a good day. That was, yeah, good research. On the same day that four got big, the same day we renegotiated with A&M and got checked for $1 million, which for a bunch of 26, 5-year-olds is way, way too much money. I wish I got that check when I was 52. Anyway, was the same day we did that, and then we got dressed and we went to the Grammys and walked in, and right then we won the Grammy for Best Rock Performance. So those are just those days where it all kind of comes together. I mean, I think the thing I thought most at that time was, I really think this means I get to do this for a long time. It's a pretty tenuous lifestyle, playing music. A lot can go wrong, but some of those milestones and getting a Grammy kind of definitely make you realize you could probably make a career out of it. And that was the most important thing, because I just love playing music, love creating music, love making people happy. And that's really what I was hoping I could do. And so the days like that kind of make you relax a little bit and think maybe you got a little while longer to do it. Because I mean, bands come and go, and some great ones too. So we're just very blessed to keep it going.
Right. And also, how did it feel? It was right around this area of time to play for Howard Stern's birthday bash.
That's great. Well, I'll say this about Letterman too, which I should have included. We grew up in New Jersey, so me, I told you I used to play guitar nonstop. I vividly remember all through my early teens and teens, in the wee hours of the morning when David Letterman would come on at 12:30 p.m. or a.m., jamming along. I was sitting there watching it in the wee hours of the morning, playing along with the band and just running scales while I watched David Letterman. The same thing, we grew up with Howard back when he was on terrestrial radio, WNBC, right after Imus. This is some deep stuff for you radio nerd. It's all very pre-internet. So Howard we were always huge fans. I used to listen to him going to school all through high school. Me and my dad and everyone in that area loved Howard. So, I mean, I was pretty giddy meeting Howard and Dave. I mean, those are pretty cool things to meet such, pivotal parts. And, it's the guys that you thought were so cool in high school, you're always going to think are so cool, no matter what. So that was pretty awesome. And I got to meet Jimmy Page once. That's the other coolest guy I've ever met.
Jimmy Page?
Yeah. Only guy I've ever walked up to and asked to shake his hand. I was like, I don't normally do that, but Jimmy Page, come on.
Yeah. Awesome guitar player.
So right after my David Bowie foray, I very soon got into like Led Zeppelin, and so Jimmy Page was my first guitar god that I just became obsessed with. So that's my guy.
So real quick before Rich takes over, because he's a bass player and I play guitar, so I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about your current guitars. I know that you have your own model with PRS.
No, but I do play PRS. PRS is very good to me. And I play a PRS McCarty with Soapbox P90s. That's about as much gear as I know for you. I got a couple I've had for 25 years. And then I've got some newer ones. Just a little shout out for McCarty for those of you, their SE series, which is they're less expensive. We won't call them cheap. So they're still $700-800. Their SE series guitars, some of them sound better than their high-end top shelf McCartys. And they also make an amazing kind of Les Paul SE. So kids out there, if you're looking for a good guitar that's not crazy expensive and not a piece of crap cheap, The PRS SEs are amazing. I play one live around when I play around town with my side projects.
Right.
I'll just jump in quickly because this is kind of relevant, Tony. I've got two boys who are also both musicians as well. My oldest is 26, and when he did kind of well in his first set of exams in high school, he wanted a Fender Jaguar, and I went and got him one of the mid 90s Japanese Fender Jaguars, which he just loves, and it's his thing. My youngest, 15, is into much heavier rock, and he asked for a PRS. And I was thinking, oh God, that's going to be expensive. So hearing you say $700 or $800 or whatever, I'm like, okay, that's slightly better. So if he gets
Check
through his
those
dental
SEs
work,
out. They're fantastic. They're
okay.
really top of the line. They're great.
So if he gets through his dental work successfully and his exams, I'll jump in and take your advice and get him one of those.
Yeah. Shout out to PRS. They make great guitars. The cheap ones, I should not say they're not cheap. The less expensive ones and that top shelf.
Okay, I'll take a look. So just quickly, so I've got a couple more things to ask. I think really, Chan. I think most musicians. I always think most musicians live about 10 lives in 1 year. So you've definitely done that. You find yourself today. What would you say is most important to you in life now?
Well, I mean, it's kind of odd. I mean, a lot of the time when I get off the road, when my kids were younger, I would lean on Mr. Mom, and that was a fantastic way to spend my extra time. Because I'm gone a lot, but the nice thing is when I'm home, I'm available 24/7 to the kids. So I got to spend a great deal of really quality time with my kids growing up, and we're still quite close, obviously, or hope not obviously, just but I'm happy about that. But I came to the point where my kids were grown up. I laid down the bottle, laid down the sword. So I didn't have that. So I realized I needed a hobby. So I decided, I realized I like playing guitar. So I figured I should do that maybe as a hobby. And singing. I hadn't really focused on my singing. I did a little bit here and there. I mean, John, our lead singer, is such an amazing singer that obviously he's going to handle the majority of that as he should. But as I came to find out, I really enjoy singing. So it's something I'm working on. And once again, I don't have a lot of natural talent, but the enthusiasm I do have. So it's almost like I'm a kid again, where all I want to do is work on music and new projects, and it's something that brings me a lot of joy and keeps my head from spinning out. And I'm not bad at it. So right now, the most important thing is my music once again.
So you sing on the Warhorse stuff, yeah?
Yeah. So one of my side projects is band Warhorse. Watch out! The new album streaming everywhere, and the horse they rode in on, Warhorse, and it's got a 4, W4 instead of an A, RHORS3. So yeah, the way that happened is at first we got together over COVID. That's kind of when this project started, and I had a bunch of songs I'd written, and I just sang to kind of keep place because I'd written the songs, and we were going to look for a lead singer. And then I realized the last thing I wanted to do was be in a band with another lead singer. So I figured I might as well do it. So that's where that came from.
The singing's great on the album. It's there's some great influences there. I can hear all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, it is
sound like Zappa and Ricky Lee Jones and all sorts of. There's some of your singing. I don't think the tone is the same, but the way you approach the vocal reminded me of Levon Helm a little bit. From the band.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'm blessed living here in Los Angeles. There's a lot of amazing musicians, and that was kind of the concept for Warhorse, because we're always out touring, but there's a lot of times we're all just here, off the road or whatever. So Warhorse, although it's kind of got a core 4, when we play live around town, and it's got the flexibility to bring other people in and out. So but it's a constant mishmash of different styles. but everyone that I've had been privileged to work with on it are all just amazing players and lifelong live players, and that's kind of the concept, like the old Warhorse. You know, we've all seen it all, and so there is a lot of influences. We don't have any rules. We're not trying to sound like anything. That's just how it came out.
Yeah, it's a great. I really like that
Thank
album.
you.
I think it's
Thank
great.
you.
So where would you hope that you and Warhorse, or generally, where do you hope to be in 12 months' time? What's the dream scenario for you?
Well, the dream scenario, listen, I just got off a fantastic 4-month tour with Blues Traveler, and we're probably playing the best we've ever played, getting along great. The crowds are great. So we're going to probably start tickling the meter on some original Blues Traveler music here. It's been a little while, but the joy of being able to play with a bunch of guys I've been playing with for 30, 40 years, who are all such amazing musicians with just these great, enthusiastic crowds, is something that's, incredibly inspiring. So I know I'm going to be doing a lot more of that. And all this downtime, I've with getting to be a better singer, it's really improved my songwriting. So just I love writing songs. I love getting them out there. I love performing them. If it's for, like, around town here, sometimes it's for 20 people, sometimes it's for 50, sometimes it's for 200. That's about as big as it gets. But even that's fun. So, just being creative, I think will probably keep me hale and happy going forward. So hopefully in 12 months, I'll have got another great Blues Traveler tour under my belt, and we'll have recorded a bunch more Warhorse stuff, or maybe I'll be in the studio with Blues Traveler. Those will be some of my positive outcomes, and hopefully sober and everyone's healthy.
I love it. What a great answer. It's I'm through with the questions. It's been somehow I knew it would be, but it's been a real pleasure chatting to you. You're such a kind of a humble, decent, authentic guy. I've really enjoyed chatting to you, and I've enjoyed listening to you and Tony chat as well. It's been a real pleasure, Chan. Thank you.
It's great talking to you, Rich. Great questions. Yeah, I like to think after all these years, most of the bullshit's been stripped away. Most of it.
Thank you, Chan. I appreciate it. Tony, have you got anything?
I got two or three final questions that are related to the page that I run, Post Punk TV, and I know that Chan likes some of the music that we play there, so I'm going to ask him if he likes 2 or 3 bands, and just let me know what your thoughts are. Let's start with the English beat, or the beat.
The English beat is one of the most unsung, amazing bands of that era. They kind of invented that how ska could actually be pop music. Some of those songs are just pure pop gold, but the musicianship's just amazing with the horns on them and the dueling guitar parts. I'm a huge English beat fan, and that's one of the great things about Instagram is, as long as you don't go down any weird wormholes and you keep your logarithm cool, it's up to you to keep your logarithm cool. It's not anyone else's responsibility. So I just get a lot of there's a lot of great English beat, old school little vids out there, and the specials. So English beat, fantastic.
All right. Well, let's jump to the second band that I thought I wanted to ask you. Obviously, the Smiths.
Smiths are great. I love Morrissey's voice, and Morris's guitar playing is really unique. There's such a quirky band because he's such a old time Frank Sinatra kind of singer, but they do have a very new wavy kind of punky attitude. So it's a great blend. I've seen Morrissey live. I mean, his voice is fantastic. So I'd love to be able to sing more like Morrissey. I'm working on it.
Right. And the Sex Pistols.
Well, the Sex Pistols, they're kind of like the professional wrestling of punk rock. You know, when you're like a 10, 11-year-old kid and you see that, you just immediately know what punk rock is. They've just embodied it. And the music's just fantastic. Thankful, you know, Johnny Rotten's vocals and um and Steve Jones' guitar playing are just next level. I mean, for the most part, that was the band. And then who is Glenn, the original bass player, wrote most of the hits. The guy that
Glenn Matlock.
Glenn Matlock. So, but without Sid Vicious, that's the punk aesthetic right there, which of course they stole from Richard Hell and Void and you know, and the Voidoids and all the mid 70s punk bands from CB's, but that they definitely didn't get it across like Sid Vicious did. I mean, talk about style. Poor lad, but man, that cut through the noise.
Yeah.
Right. And just the last one here, because of the New York connection, the New York Dolls.
Really cool band. I mean, the songwriting wasn't as great as, you know, Mark Bolan maybe, or of course Bowie, but I know a lot of them. A lot of people they were kind of a precursor to punk, and especially in that whole Maxwell's Kansas City Post Factory, Lou Reed and Velvet Underground. I think all that played a little part in kind of creating that next generation, which turned into the punk scene. But to me, there was more of a glam band, just a glam rock band. So super cool. And I know they're important in history, but none of their songs particularly stick with me, even though they're definitely a cool outfit. I'm kind of more like a Heartbreakers, Bowie kind of guy.
Heartbreakers with Johnny Thunders as
I like that stuff.
Right.
That's punk. To me, that's more punk rock. The Johnny Thunders and the stuff after.
Right.
Johnny Thunders was in the New York Dolls.
Absolutely. And just real quick, I know that you have a release party for your War Horse album on the 12th of December.
December 12th at St. Rock in Santa Monica or Venice, somewhere down there.
Right.
Here in Los Angeles.
So is that open? Can you buy tickets to that, or is it invitational?
Please buy tickets. It's just a rock show. Come down and party.
I will put the link for Saint Roque, and we'll absolutely help you out. I'll see you there for sure.
Right on.
Well, thank you very much, Chan. This is huge. Anything else that you'd like to add?
One other band from that era that was kind of pivotal for me, the Psychedelic Furs, another unsung, fantastic band from that era. I saw them live twice back in the early mid 80s at like universities in the Jersey area. Really amazing band, and I don't think they get enough love, especially stateside. They're probably pretty well known over in Europe, in England area, but stateside, a lot of these bands are much bigger in England and Europe than they are over here. But because I grew up in Princeton by the Record Exchange, I got to check it all out.
Just real quick, going back to the guitar playing, I know that when you're on tour with Blues Travelers, you use Wagner's amplifiers, right?
Yes, sir.
And when you are with Warhorse, I saw this very, very nice amplifier, but I don't know the name. Can you share?
Magnatone.
Magnatone.
And the great thing about Wagner just makes big, loud amps, so they're great for bigger, louder places. I play with Blues Traveler, but they're way too loud for the little places I play with Warhorse. So Magnatone is a great company. They make a lot of different amps, but this one in particular is an 18-watt, and it just sounds like crunchy and overdriven at a reasonable volume for a club. So it's a fantastic amp.
Magnatone. And microphones. I know that you use. Did you just get a deal with a sponsorship with a microphone company?
Yeah, my bass player got one, and I should know the name of it, but as a total noob lead singer, I don't.
Don't worry. Don't worry. What are some of the pedals that you use?
I try and keep it pretty simple. I use a TC Electronics flanger chorus. That's really good. That's the same one Andy Summers used to use, and probably
Right.
still does with the Police. Just gives things a nice little depth. And I use, I'm a very strong believer. You don't want to get too much in between a really nice guitar and a nice amp. Too much pedals and effects kind of takes some of the life out of it. And I use so it's called a Morning Glory distortion pedal, which just is a nice boost, warms it up for leads and for power chords and things, but without too much compression and saturation like some of the pedals have. I use a couple cool delays. The Boss digital delay is a classic, really, really rhythmic and not super expensive. I keep it pretty simple. That's about all, that's about for the most part what I use. I use a Morley wah-wah. And that's what I use. Both my rigs are pretty similar. My pedal board for here and out on tour. I don't get too much mucky-muck. I got a keyboard player who's always making weird noises, and my bass player thinks he's a guitar player, so he's always doing effects. So I figure we don't need three people doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Who do you like in the NFL this year?
I'm a Steelers man.
That's
my team. But if I had to guess, it's going to be Lions, and then I'm not betting against the Chiefs anytime soon. So Lions look great. But, I'm a Steelers fan. I'll hold out hope that the renaissance continues.
Yeah. I mean, they have a good defense. Did they won the last game by just kicking field goals, did they?
Yep.
6 field.
Those NFC North, the AFC North fights are always close and weird and brutal. So
because of the weather too. I mean, it
has something to do with it. The teams just know each other so well that they know how to compete against the other team's flaws or what the other teams are going to do. So it really levels the playing field, no matter how good the teams are at the time. But
yeah,
we're having a good year. Steelers are on tonight versus Cleveland. I'll be watching.
Yeah. What about basket? Are you a Lakers or?
I grew up a Knicks fan, and finally the Knicks are good again. But I've been in LA now 25 years, basically. And so I've gone to a lot of Lakers games. So I definitely have a soft spot for the Lakers. I like the Lakers. But now that the Knicks are good, I'll try and get back. I'll try and dust off my Knicks fandom. It was pretty brutal for a while.
Or at least we can agree on one team, the Yankees.
Yankees.
Yes.
That was a tough loss this year.
Yeah, it was, man.
The Dodgers were just a better team, so I don't feel too bad about it.
Yeah.
And I like the Dodgers. I've been to a lot of games at Chavez Ravine, so I got a soft spot for the Dodgers.
Absolutely. Well, Chan, I can't thank you enough for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
That's me and Rich, and it's been an honor.
Cool. It's great talking to you guys, man.
You too. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you, Chan.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.